everyone, Dan here from HackMe. If it's your first time to the channel, welcome. Today I am just going to work another TryHackMe room. It's easy beginners CTF style called RootMe. Join the VPN, started the machine, tick off the first task, and we can start working through the room. First stage is going to be reconnaissance. Let's get some information about the target. We'll start with an nmap scan. I like to add lots of verbosity so I can see stuff happening on the screen. We'll scan all ports except port 0 in this case. We'll grab some versions. We'll run some safe scripts. Lots of people like to put that out into 2. We won't bother pinging because we know it's live. We're going to output into the 3 formats that get outputted. So that's nmap, grippable nmap, and XML. Did not do is copy that. We're going to do that reasonably fast. Just want to know about open ports. Reason, grab that IP, and let's run off and let that scan for a few minutes. And just start set up to take some notes. While that is happening, let's go and have a look back here. See what we can answer. Okay, so there's probably not going to be many ports open. Seems quite likely it's only going to be the 2. And just looking at the port numbers, that is likely to be SSH and HTTP. We'll wait patiently for the scan to finish though. Okay, so we can see there, gone through all the ports. It's only picked up 2. So it's going to start doing the service scan on those 2 ports. So that probably means we can answer that first question. We shall have a look in our nmap file. This is the output. We can see what we can get. Answers to some of our questions. So what version of Apache is running? Just copy that out to my notes. Start with, so what version of Apache are we running? 2.4.29. 1.29. What service is running on port 22? As expected, it is SSH. Okay, and then they want us to use GoBuster. To use GoBuster to do just a brute force of the directory. So GoBuster in directory brute forcing mode. We'll give it a URL, which was in 10.202.99. Go to word lists, share word lists. I quite like to use derb big. Just dump that out to a text file. Just let that run. GoBuster is pretty quick. There's also another one which I like to use called FerrixBuster. Very similar in terms of switches. We might use a different word list for this one. There's lots of different things you can do with FerrixBuster, but Ferrix gives you like a nicer output. So you're picking up some directories here. Uploads directory, for example, here. A lot of this comes down to word lists. Gonna hazard a guess that's probably gonna be our way in, I would say. Okay, we found everything that we need to the reconnaissance questions. Moving on to the next section, getting a shell. Find a form to upload and get a reverse shell. So this panel, this will be the panel where we can upload a file. Create a file, yeah. And then let's actually just go. Success. File there. Okay. So the exploit method here is going to be uploading a file that'll get us a reverse shell of some kind, and we run it. And because we've got access to this uploads directory, and we've got this thing here which will actually upload some things, this is going to be our vector. So what will be interesting though is to see if there is any filtering done once we sort of try and upload a file. But in the meantime, what we need to do then is edit this, things to change in here, which is the IP address that we use, which for us is this. And I like to use, just out of habit, I like to use a port that's probably unlikely to be blocked outbound. So usually, depending on what my machine's doing, I'll either use 443 or 80 or sometimes 53. But in this case, we're going to use 443. And what we'll do meantime is set netcat up to listen on 443 to our web page, and we will upload our shell. Oh, and that is not permitted. So that means there is likely a filter on here. So what I've done now is I've set up Foxy Proxy. What I want to do is actually intercept all of the requests coming to this page, and probably quite likely one of these is going to be the script file that's doing the filtering. Then I'm just going to carve that out. I think that's possibly a client-side filter. I'll let that go through to here. And I'll try and upload my shell again. And you can see there's the information that we changed for that. See what we get. We get the same problem. Okay, maybe it is a server-side filter. So what about if we change the name of our file? So let's change that to php-rev. We need to figure out, we know text files can get up there because we uploaded a text file. So let's change the extension. And what I'm not sure about is the way the filter is working. Whether it's looking at the end of the file or it's looking at the beginning of the file. So we'll try php-rev.text.php, go from there. Okay, doesn't permit PHP. Another couple of things that we can try. So JPG, set verb to intercept. Upload our file. So at the moment, it's telling the server that it's an image. It's an image file, which we don't want to tell the server it's an image file. We want to tell it it's a PHP file. So it'll mark it as a PHP file on the other side, but it will actually take through that extension. Let's see if that gets through. And it does. So let's see then. It will run. It will not, because it contains errors. So what else can we try? We could also try different PHP. Try that. See what that does. It's still a PHP file type, but hopefully server isn't filtering on PHP 5. Just PHP. Okay, that's cool. Uploads PHP 5 file, and let's see if that one works. And that looks a lot more promising. Here we are. So we're in as www data, and we have Python. So what I'm going to do is import a Python virtual terminal just to make this work a little better. So we are in the root directory. We already determined who we were. So let's have a look around the file system. Let's look in the right place. So have a look in here, and we'll see if we can find anything useful. Actually, let's go back to our other screen and see what information we need to provide for this section. Oh, we need to find a user.txt file. Okay, so we'll go back to our shell, and we will go type file named user.txt, and we will dump all the errors out to dev null. If we didn't have that, if we didn't dump standard error out to dev null, we would be sitting here seeing a truckload of errors passing by, but that's found our text file anyway. Let's grab that in so we can see we have access to that file. It's on in there. Here we got a shell, and we'll go back and we'll answer our question here. Done our reconnaissance, found 2 open ports, a web server that we then brute forced a directory off, found a hidden directory, and that hidden directory has allowed us to upload a file with a basic filter that we had to bypass, and now we've got a shell. So now we'll move on to privilege escalation. And there's a lot of steps that you'd try initially, but because this is kind of a super simple room, they've given us a hint as to what we need to look for. So what we're going to look for is files with the SUID permissions set. And what these files are files with a bit set on them to allow any standard user to run these files as root. So if we let's have a look at this, because I believe this is a standard binary that has this right set, and this is to enable users to change their passwords. So you can see the S there. That's the SUID bit that allows users to run this particular command as root. This is fairly typical on a Linux file system, but not without its own foibles and problems. Depending on the application that has the SUID bit set, there are quite a lot that allow you to bypass sort of standard security features and functions. So what we're going to do is look for any file. So in type F is a file. So we're looking for files, not directories. We want to find permissions, and we want to find permissions where the user has SUID set. And we're going to do the same thing so that we don't get all of the errors that this user can't see. Let's look through this manually then, see what is, just make that a bit easier to see. So what looks weird? A good thing to do to kind of compare this is to look on your own system and sort of find out what's normal, or with some of the exploit suggestion tools like LinPeas or WinPeas. I believe they actually do search for these kinds of things. And I have a script in that I store on my GitHub that basically just takes the output from here on a machine that I know hasn't really got much set up, and compares it with the machine that you're running this on to see what's there. So I'm wondering if that's kind of weird. Allowing anyone to run Python as root seems kind of a bad idea. So let's see if we are right. And we are. Next stage, find a form to escalate your privileges. So what we're looking for was basically files that have this thing set, give us unintended consequences. So come here, and the best place to kind of find these is GTFO bins. There's a lolbas for Windows as well, which is living off the land binaries. So let's find Python. Let's see what we can do. So that's probably going to be the absolutely perfect one for us, but let's go SUID. So what this does then is allows us to run this particular script, because we know that we've got the SUID bit set on Python. So that's going to allow us to push this command to Python, import the OS, and then execute our own shell. So let's copy this to our shell -c here somewhere. And we are root. So now we can go and look around and see all of the things. Set ourselves up some persistence by creating an SSH key entry and authorized keys. But in this particular case, what we're going to do is read that and get our back here, and in there, found our form, got our privilege escalation. It's a fun little room. Just gives you an idea of the kind of stuff you can expect to see on TryHackMe. Very, very much a beginner room, but a lot of fun. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.